Have you ever had a strange feeling that you've lived before? Maybe you visited a new place but felt like you knew it already. Or perhaps you've met someone for the first time, yet it seemed like you've known them forever. These odd experiences might make you wonder if you're a reincarnated soul. Today, we're diving into 8 signs that could suggest you've lived past lives. But remember, we're not here to prove anything, just to explore some interesting ideas that might make you think differently about yourself and the world around you. Before we jump into the signs, let's talk about what reincarnation actually means. Reincarnation is the belief that when we die, our soul or spirit is reborn in a new body. It's like our soul goes on a long journey, learning lessons in each life it lives. This idea isn't new. It's been around for thousands of years in many different cultures. In some parts of Asia, like India and Tibet, reincarnation is a big part of their spiritual beliefs. They think that how you live in this life affects what kind of life you'll have next time around. But it's not just in Asia. Some Native American tribes and even ancient Greeks had similar ideas. Now, you might be wondering, if I've had past lives, why can't I remember them? Well, that's a good question. Some people believe that we forget our past lives when we're born, so we can focus on this life without being distracted by memories of other times. It's like starting fresh each time, but maybe with some leftover feelings or talents from before. It's important to know that not everyone believes in reincarnation, and that's okay. Some people think we only live once, while others believe in different ideas about what happens after we die. In this video, we're not trying to convince you one way or the other. We're just exploring some interesting signs that make some people think reincarnation might be real. Whether you believe in past lives or not, thinking about these ideas can be fun and might even help you understand yourself better. So, let's keep an open mind as we go through these signs. You might find that some of them sound familiar to you, or they might be completely new. Either way, it's all about learning and exploring. Let's talk about the first sign that some people think might mean you're a reincarnated soul: having lots of déjà vu experiences. Now, what exactly is déjà vu? It's that weird feeling you get when you're in a situation that feels super familiar, even though you know you've never been in that exact situation before. It's like your brain is telling you, hey, we've been here before, but you can't figure out when or how. Déjà vu is pretty common. Most people have it now and then. But if you find yourself having these experiences a lot, some folks think it might be a sign of reincarnation. They believe that these strong feelings of familiarity could be little peeks into your past lives. Imagine you're visiting a city for the first time, but as you walk down a certain street, everything feels weirdly familiar. The buildings, the smells, even the way the sunlight hits the pavement. It all gives you this strong sense that you've been there before. But you know for sure you haven't, at least not in this life. Some people might explain this by saying, your soul remembers this place from a past life. Or maybe you meet someone new, and right away you feel like you've known them forever. You might finish each other's sentences or have inside jokes that don't make sense because you just met. This kind of instant connection is another thing that some people link to past lives. They think it could mean you knew each other in a different time. But here's the thing: déjà vu doesn't have to mean you're reincarnated. Scientists have some other explanations for why we get this feeling. Sometimes they say it's just our brain playing tricks on us. Maybe we saw something similar in a movie or a dream, and our brain is mixing up the memory. Or it could be that part of our brain processes what we're seeing a split second faster than another part, making us feel like we're reliving a moment. Whether déjà vu is a glimpse of past lives or just a quirk of how our brains work, it's a pretty cool experience. It reminds us that there's still a lot we don't understand about our minds and memories. And it can make everyday life feel a bit more magical and mysterious. So, if you find yourself having a lot of déjà vu moments, you might want to pay attention to them. Try to notice when they happen and what they feel like. Are there certain places or types of situations that trigger this feeling more often? Keeping track might help you understand your experiences better, whether you think they're tied to past lives or not. Remember, having déjà vu doesn't automatically mean you're reincarnated, but it's an interesting thing to think about. It makes us wonder about the nature of our memories and experiences. And sometimes, wondering about these big questions can lead us to learn new things about ourselves and the world around us. As we go through the rest of the signs, keep in mind that they're all like pieces of a big puzzle. One piece on its own doesn't tell the whole story, but when you put them all together, you might start to see an interesting picture. So let's keep exploring and see what other signs might suggest a connection to past lives. The second sign that some people think might point to reincarnation is having unusual memories or knowledge that doesn't seem to fit with your current life. This can show up in different ways, and it's often most noticeable in kids. Sometimes, little kids say things that make adults scratch their heads. They might talk about places they've never been to, describe events from long ago, or even claim to remember a past life. For example, a child might start talking about living in a different country during a time before they were born, giving details that seem way too specific for a young kid to know. It's not just kids, though. Adults can have these experiences too. Maybe you have a strong interest in a certain time in history, and when you learn about it, you find that you already know a lot of details without being sure how. Or you might pick up a skill really quickly, almost like you're remembering it rather than learning it for the first time. Here's an example. Imagine someone who's never played the piano before sits down at one and starts playing a complex piece. They can't explain how they know how to do it. Their fingers just seem to know where to go. Some people might see this as a sign that the person was a pianist in a past life. Or think about someone who's always been drawn to a certain culture or language, even though they've never been exposed to it in this life. They might find that when they start learning about it, everything feels familiar and easy to understand. It's like they're remembering rather than learning. These kinds of experiences can feel pretty weird. If you've had them, you might have wondered, how do I know this? Or, why does this feel so familiar? It can be a bit unsettling, but also exciting. Now, it's important to remember that there are other explanations for these experiences too. Sometimes we pick up information without realizing it. We might hear things in the background of TV shows, or overhear conversations that our brain stores away without us noticing. Or maybe we have a natural talent for something that makes learning it easier. In the case of kids saying strange things, they have really active imaginations. They might combine things they've heard or seen in ways that sound like memories of past lives. And sometimes the questions adults ask can accidentally lead kids to say things that sound like past life memories. Whether these unusual memories or bits of knowledge come from past lives or not, they're definitely interesting. They remind us that our minds are capable of some pretty amazing things, and they can lead us to explore new interests or develop skills we might not have tried otherwise. If you've had experiences like this, it can be fun to explore them further. Maybe keep a journal of these moments when they happen. Write down what you remembered or knew and how it made you feel. Over time, you might notice patterns or connections you didn't see before. It's also worth noting that having unusual memories or knowledge doesn't mean you have to believe in reincarnation. You can appreciate these experiences for what they are, interesting quirks of the human mind, without needing to explain them in any particular way. As we continue exploring the signs that some people associate with reincarnation, keep in mind that everyone's experiences are unique. What feels like a sign to one person might not mean the same thing to someone else. The important thing is to stay curious and open-minded, whether you believe in past lives or not. The third sign that some people link to reincarnation is having recurring dreams or nightmares, especially ones that feel very real or historic. Dreams are a normal part of sleep for everyone, but when you have the same dream over and over, or when your dreams feel more like memories, some folks think it might be more than just your imagination at work. Let's talk about recurring dreams first. These are dreams that you have again and again, often with the same details each time. Sometimes these dreams might be set in a different time period or a place you've never been. For example, you might regularly dream about living in ancient Egypt, working as a scribe, and seeing the pyramids being built. The dream feels so real that when you wake up, you can almost feel the hot sun on your skin and the papyrus in your hands. Or maybe you have a recurring dream where you're a soldier in a war from long ago. You might see the same battlefield, hear the same sounds, and feel the same emotions every time you have this dream. It's like watching the same movie over and over, but you're in it, and it feels incredibly real. Nightmares can be part of this too. Some people have scary dreams that come back again and again. These might be about dangerous situations or tragic events. For instance, someone might regularly dream about being on a sinking ship, feeling the panic and the cold water every time. If the dream is very detailed and feels more like a memory than a made-up story, some people wonder if it could be tied to a past life experience. What makes these dreams stand out is how vivid and detailed they are. They're not like regular dreams that can be fuzzy or jump around from one scene to another. These dreams often have a clear story, and the dreamer can remember lots of specific details when they wake up. It's like the difference between watching a movie on an old fuzzy TV and watching one in high definition. Everything just feels more real and clear. Some people who believe in reincarnation think these kinds of dreams might be memories from past lives bubbling up while we sleep. They say that when we're dreaming, our current life thoughts aren't in the way, so old memories can come through more easily. But it's not just about the content of the dreams. It's also about how they make you feel. People who think their dreams might be from past lives often say they wake up with strong emotions. They might feel sad about leaving the place in their dream, or they might feel a strong connection to the people they saw. Sometimes, the feelings from the dream can stick around for hours or even days after waking up. Now, just like with the other signs we've talked about, there are other ways to explain recurring dreams and nightmares. Our brains are really good at making up stories, and dreams are one way they do this. The things we see, hear, and worry about during the day can all show up in our dreams in different ways. Sometimes, recurring dreams might be our brain's way of dealing with stress or working through problems. For example, if you're worried about a big test coming up, you might have recurring dreams about being late for an exam or not being able to find the classroom. These dreams aren't about past lives. They're about current worries. Nightmares, especially ones that come back again and again, might be linked to fears or traumatic experiences in this life. Our brains sometimes use dreams to process difficult emotions or memories, which can lead to scary dreams that feel very real. If you have recurring dreams or nightmares that feel like they might be more than just regular dreams, there are a few things you can try. Keeping a dream journal can be really helpful. Write down your dreams as soon as you wake up, including as many details as you can remember. Over time, you might start to see patterns or make connections you didn't notice before. You could also try lucid dreaming techniques. Lucid dreaming is when you realize you're dreaming while you're still in the dream. Some people find that when they become lucid in a recurring dream, they can explore it more deeply or even change how it goes. Whether these vivid, recurring dreams are glimpses of past lives or just our brain's way of processing information, they're definitely interesting. They show us how complex and creative our minds can be. And sometimes these dreams can lead us to new interests or help us understand ourselves better. As we continue exploring signs that some people associate with reincarnation, remember that it's okay to be curious and open-minded, but also skeptical. Whether you believe these experiences are tied to past lives or not, they're a fascinating part of being human. They remind us that there's still a lot we don't understand about our minds and our experiences. Certainly, I'll continue with the next 3 sections of the 8 signs you're a reincarnated soul script, following the same style and tone as before. Let's talk about the 4th sign that some people think might point to reincarnation, having unexplained fears or phobias. We all have things we're afraid of, but sometimes people have really strong fears that don't make sense based on their current life experiences. These are the kinds of fears we're talking about here. Imagine being terribly afraid of water even though you've never had a bad experience with it. You might avoid swimming pools, feel panicky near the ocean, or even get nervous taking a bath. If this fear is really strong and you can't explain why you have it, some people might wonder if it's connected to a past life experience. Or think about someone who's scared of heights, but not in a normal way. Maybe they can't even look out of windows in tall buildings without feeling sick. If they've never fallen or had any bad experiences with heights in this life, where does that fear come from? Some people believe these intense, unexplained fears might be memories from past lives. They think that if something really bad happened to you in a past life, the fear might carry over to this one. For example, if you drowned in a past life, you might have an unexplained fear of water in this one. It's not just big fears either. Sometimes it's more specific things. Maybe you feel really uneasy around a certain type of animal, or you get nervous when you hear a particular sound. If these reactions are strong and you can't figure out why you have them, some folks might see it as a sign of a past life experience. Now, it's important to remember that there are other explanations for unexplained fears too. Sometimes we develop fears based on things we've seen or heard, even if we don't remember them clearly. Or we might pick up fears from our parents or other people around us without realizing it. Our brains are also really good at making connections, sometimes in ways that don't make sense. You might have had a scary experience as a little kid that you don't remember, but your brain still holds on to that fear. Whether these unexplained fears come from past lives or not, they can be tough to deal with. If you have a fear like this, it might help to explore it a bit. Try to notice when the fear shows up and how it makes you feel. Sometimes, understanding our fears better can help us manage them, no matter where they come from. The fifth sign that some people associate with reincarnation is having a strong intuition or what seem like psychic abilities. This isn't about being able to predict the future or read minds, like in movies. It's more about having a really good gut feeling about things or knowing stuff without being sure how you know it. Have you ever just known something was going to happen before it did? Or maybe you've had a strong feeling about a person you just met and it turned out to be right. That's the kind of intuition we're talking about here. Some people seem to have a knack for understanding others' feelings or knowing when someone needs help. They might walk into a room and immediately sense the mood, even if nobody's talking. Or they might call a friend right when that friend is thinking about them. People who believe in reincarnation sometimes think that these abilities might be skills we've developed over many lifetimes. The idea is that as our souls live different lives, we get better at understanding the world around us in ways that go beyond our five senses. For example, someone who's lived many lives might have gotten really good at reading people's emotions. In this life, that might show up as being very empathetic, or always knowing how others are feeling. Or maybe in past lives, you learn to trust your instincts to keep yourself safe. In this life, that might mean you have really good intuition about dangerous situations or people who might not have the best intentions. Some people even talk about having memories or knowledge that seem to come out of nowhere. They might know how to do things they've never learned or have detailed knowledge about places they've never been. If these abilities are strong and don't have a clear explanation, some folks wonder if they might be carried over from past lives. Now, it's important to note that having good intuition doesn't automatically mean you're reincarnated. Our brains are really good at picking up on small details that we might not consciously notice. What feels like a psychic ability might just be our brain putting together lots of tiny clues really quickly. Also, as we go through life, we naturally get better at understanding people and situations. What seems like intuition might just be the result of lots of experience and practice at reading social cues and understanding how the world works. Whether these abilities come from past lives or not, they can be really helpful. Having good intuition can help you make decisions, understand others better, and sometimes even keep you safe. If you feel like you have strong intuition or other abilities like this, it can be interesting to pay attention to them and see how often they turn out to be right. The sixth sign that some people think might suggest reincarnation is feeling out of place or time. This is a bit different from just not fitting in. It's more like feeling you were born in the wrong era, or that you don't quite belong in the modern world. Have you ever felt like you would fit in better if you lived in a different time? Maybe you're drawn to a particular historical period and feel like you understand it better than the time you're living in now. Some people feel so connected to a past era that modern life feels strange or uncomfortable to them. For example, someone might feel deeply connected to the 1920s. They might love the music, fashion, and culture of that time so much that it feels more like home than the present day. Or maybe someone feels like they understand ancient Roman culture in a way that goes beyond just being interested in history. This feeling can show up in different ways. Some people might find that they're really good at using old-fashioned tools or techniques, even if they've never been taught how. Others might have strong opinions about historical events, almost like they remember being there. Sometimes, this feeling of being out of place extends to location too. A person might feel drawn to a particular country or culture, even if they've never been there. They might find that when they finally visit that place, it feels oddly familiar or like home. People who believe in reincarnation sometimes think these feelings might be echoes from past lives. They suggest that maybe your soul remembers living in that time or place before, which is why it feels so familiar and right to you now. It's not always about the past either. Some people feel like they belong in the future. They might be really excited about new technologies or have ideas that seem ahead of their time. In these cases, some folks wonder if maybe their soul is newer or has lived in more advanced civilizations before. Now, feeling out of place doesn't necessarily mean you're reincarnated. We're all influenced by the books we read, the movies we watch, and the stories we hear. Sometimes we might romanticize the past or imagine the future in ways that make our current time seem less exciting. Also, it's pretty common for people to feel like they don't quite fit in with the mainstream culture of their time. This can be especially true for creative people or deep thinkers who see the world a bit differently from others. Whether this feeling comes from past lives or not, it can be both challenging and interesting. If you feel out of place in your current time, it might help to find ways to connect with the era or culture you're drawn to. You could study history, learn traditional skills, or connect with other people who share your interests. At the same time, try to find ways to appreciate the good things about living in the present. Every era has its challenges and benefits, and there might be opportunities now that wouldn't have been possible in the past. Feeling out of place can sometimes lead to new insights or creative ideas. Many artists, writers, and inventors have felt this way, and they've used those feelings to create amazing things. So if you feel like you don't quite belong in this time, maybe that's just a sign that you have a unique perspective to offer the world. Certainly. I'll continue with the remaining sections of the 8 signs you're a reincarnated soul script and add a conclusion, following the same style and tone as before. The 7th sign that some people associate with reincarnation is having unusually intense connections with certain people. We all meet people we click with, but this is about connections that feel deeper than that, like you've known someone forever, even when you've just met. Have you ever met someone and felt an instant, powerful connection? Maybe you felt like you could trust them right away, or you found yourself sharing deep thoughts and feelings much sooner than you normally would. Some people describe it as feeling like they've found a long-lost friend or family member. These connections can happen with all sorts of people, friends, romantic partners, or even strangers you meet briefly. What makes them stand out is how strong and unexplainable they feel. You might find that you can communicate without words, or that you understand each other in ways that usually take years to develop. Sometimes these connections come with a sense of familiarity. You might feel like you know things about the person that you couldn't possibly know, or you might have a sense of shared experiences that haven't actually happened in this life. People who believe in reincarnation sometimes think these intense connections might be because you knew each other in a past life. The idea is that souls tend to reincarnate in groups, meeting up again and again in different lifetimes. So that person who feels so familiar might have been your best friend, your sibling, or your partner in a previous life. These connections aren't always positive, though. Sometimes you might meet someone and have an intense negative reaction to them, even though they haven't done anything wrong. Believers in reincarnation might say this could be because of unresolved issues from a past life. Now it's important to remember that there are other explanations for these kinds of connections too. Sometimes we click with people because we have similar personalities, shared interests, or complementary traits. Our brains are also really good at filling in gaps and creating a sense of familiarity, even when we're meeting someone new. Whether these connections are from past lives or not, they can be really special. If you experience this kind of intense connection with someone, it might be worth exploring. These relationships, whether they're friendships or romantic partnerships, often have the potential to be very meaningful and growth-promoting. At the same time, it's good to keep a balance. Even if you feel an incredibly strong connection with someone, it's still important to get to know them in this life and build your relationship in the present. After all, whether you've known each other for many lifetimes or just this one, what matters most is how you treat each other now. The eighth and final sign we're going to talk about is having a strong sense of a greater purpose in life. This is more than just having goals or ambitions. It's a deep feeling that you're here to do something important, even if you're not sure exactly what that is. People who experience this often feel like they have a mission or a calling. They might have a burning desire to make a difference in the world, or they might feel drawn to a particular cause or field of work. This sense of purpose often comes with a feeling of urgency, like there's something important they need to accomplish in this lifetime. Sometimes this purpose feels bigger than just one person. You might feel like you're part of a larger plan, or that your life is connected to something greater than yourself. This can come with a strong sense of responsibility or even a feeling of destiny. For some people, this sense of purpose shows up early in life. They might be the kids who always knew what they wanted to be when they grew up, or who seemed wise beyond their years. For others, it might develop later, maybe after a significant life event or a period of soul searching. Those who believe in reincarnation sometimes think this sense of purpose might be connected to lessons or missions carried over from past lives. The idea is that our souls choose to be reborn to learn specific lessons or to complete unfinished business. So that feeling of having a mission might be your soul remembering what it came here to do. This sense of purpose can show up in different ways. Some people feel called to help others, maybe through teaching, healing, or social work. Others might feel driven to create art, music, or literature that touches people's hearts. And some might feel pulled towards solving big problems, like working on environmental issues or fighting for social justice. Now, it's worth noting that having a sense of purpose doesn't necessarily mean you're reincarnated. Many people develop a sense of mission through their experiences, values, and beliefs in this life. And the desire to do something meaningful with our lives is a pretty common human trait. Whether this sense of purpose comes from past lives or not, it can be a powerful driving force. If you feel this way, it can be really fulfilling to explore that purpose and find ways to act on it. At the same time, try not to put too much pressure on yourself. Finding and fulfilling your purpose is often a lifelong journey, not a single destination. Now that we've gone through all 8 signs, you might be wondering what it all means. Maybe you've recognized some of these signs in yourself, or maybe none of them sound familiar. Either way, it's interesting to think about. If you do feel like some of these signs apply to you, it doesn't necessarily mean you're definitely a reincarnated soul. Remember, there are other explanations for all of these experiences. Our brains are complex and fascinating, and a lot of these signs could be explained by psychology, our subconscious minds, or just the unique way each of us experiences the world. On the other hand, if you believe in reincarnation, experiencing these signs might feel like confirmation of your beliefs. It might encourage you to explore your spirituality further, or to look for meaning in your experiences. The important thing is to stay open-minded and curious. Whether these signs come from past lives or not, they're part of what makes you unique. They can be a starting point for self-discovery and personal growth. If you're interested in exploring these ideas further, there are lots of ways to do that. You might want to read books about reincarnation or past life experiences. Some people find it helpful to try meditation or past life regression techniques. Just remember to approach these things with a balance of curiosity and critical thinking. It's also okay if you're not sure what to believe. Many of life's big questions don't have clear, provable answers. What matters is finding a way of understanding the world that feels right to you and helps you live a fulfilling life. As we wrap up our exploration of these 8 signs of reincarnation, it's important to remember that the idea of past lives is just one way of understanding our experiences. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not, thinking about these signs can be an interesting way to reflect on your life and your place in the world. Maybe you've recognized some of these signs in yourself, or maybe they've made you think about your experiences in a new way. Either way, the goal isn't to prove or disprove reincarnation, but to open up new ways of thinking about who we are and why we're here. If nothing else, exploring these ideas reminds us of how complex and amazing human beings are. We all have unique experiences, feelings, and connections that shape who we are. Whether those come from past lives, our experiences in this life, or something else entirely, they're what make each of us special. So whether you're a firm believer in reincarnation, a skeptic, or somewhere in between, I hope this exploration has given you something interesting to think about. Maybe it's encouraged you to pay more attention to your dreams, to explore that sense of purpose you feel, or to cherish those unexplainable connections you have with certain people. Remember, the journey of understanding ourselves and our place in the universe is a lifelong one. Stay curious, keep an open mind, and don't be afraid to explore new ideas. Who knows what you might discover about yourself along the way? Thank you for joining me on this journey through the 8 signs of reincarnation. Whether you see these signs in yourself or not, I hope it sparked your curiosity and given you some food for thought. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep being your unique, wonderful self.